Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of D54. I'm Amit, and today I am pretty excited because I'm talking to you guys about the latest blockbuster hit, Kannur Squad, which finally came to Australia. If you're wondering how come it took me so long to review this movie or so long to talk about this movie, well, it came out last week to Australia, last Friday. And unfortunately, I didn't have the opportunity to watch it last weekend because I was a little busy, more busy than I wanted to be. But to be honest, I was really happy that I got to see it yesterday, and I'm happy that it's still in cinema here because I was worried that it might be out of cinema. And movies in Australia, they seem to come a bit later. Like it took a while for RDX to come, it took a while for 2018 to come, it took a while for Kannur Squad to come. So I'm always sort of a bit behind when watching these movies, but it was worth the wait. I mean, I've been hearing such good things about this movie. The reports were just overwhelmingly positive and people were really excited about this. And it came across as I would say a bit of a surprise. I don't know if everybody expected this movie to be as good as it was. There was obviously very little promotion for this movie, which was surprising, considering we had just seen, I think it was being promoted around, maybe I was hearing about this movie about the same time as I was hearing about King of Kota, and that movie was on the other end of the spectrum in terms of promotions. They pushed as much as they could. This one, even in terms of like what they put out to, the official releases, they just had really a trailer release and they had a song, an amazing song, but that's all they really had. And then they really, they didn't hype it up too much. They really just was like, yep, we're just going to go in a bit under the radar and let word of mouth get so good that people are going to want to go see it. So, yeah, look, for myself, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was a great movie. And it was great to see this in cinema, actually, to be honest. Despite the fact when I went, there was a really small crowd. To be honest, even when you see movies in Melbourne, Australia, you don't get a hype crowd like you do in India or anything like that. You don't have crazy fans. It's nothing like that. It's a pretty silent crowd, no matter what the movie is, unless it's like a Hollywood movie. Sometimes people get excited about, some of the Marvel stuff, but overall, cinemas are pretty quiet here. So this movie I saw, there was maybe about 20 people in the cinema, really quiet again. I'm sure it would have been more busy the first weekend, but I'm seeing it on the second weekend, and that too on a Sunday. So, it was really quiet, but it didn't take away from the experience much at all. Because, seeing this on the big screen, one of the highlights of this movie, is really the cinematography. And you can tell that this debut director, Roby Varghese, Raj, fantastic. He did a really good job, but I can tell that his background is from cinematography. And I think I had heard about this in some of the comments that when I reacted to the song earlier on a few weeks ago, that his background was cinematography, and you can tell that. This movie is a visual feast. It's beautiful to watch this movie. And it's pretty unique. It's pretty different in some ways too. Because, with sometimes movies from Kerala, sometimes, when I say beautiful cinematography, it's like beautiful scenery, but they're really showing off the landscape of Kerala sometimes, the beautiful rivers, the forest, and things like that. But this was like, a desert. They really took advantage of just showing us, the barren landscape. And, that was just such a visual feast to see because, the drone shots that they had, the aerial shots, were beautiful. Oh my God. The set location was fantastic in all the different places that they recorded at. I think they recorded at maybe 6 or 7 different places in between. I think they went to Mumbai, they went to Uttar Pradesh, they went to obviously in Kerala as well, and Tamil Nadu, I think, as well, in Coimbatore. So they went to a few places, but yeah, visually this movie was beautiful, and it's probably one of the highlights of this movie. I would say the production design overall. When it comes to the editing, when it comes to the, obviously I talk about cinematography, the director of photography, obviously the score and the music was amazing in this movie. Essentially the guy that did the music, Shyam, he was really good. And look, I'd heard about him a little bit before, and I think I've seen some of his movies where he's done some of the movies where he's been the music composer or the lead musician, however you want to call it. And yeah, it's fantastic. The score throughout the entire movie is so good. It's paced out really well and it keeps you engaged throughout the entire movie. It plays a crucial role in this movie because look, in terms of plotline, it's something you could definitely say it's a little bit on the slower side at times, like especially the first half. I think it's definitely a bit slower. So things like this, the cinematography, the music, they add to the movie, especially in the first half, and they are almost needed. They're almost essential to sort of keep you engaged. So that's one real highlight. And I mean, the main song in this movie, there's not many songs in this movie, but the main song, Murdha Bhave Drudha Krute, beautiful song. Like, we reacted to the song a few weeks ago, and I loved it, and I've been playing it since. It's been a constant song in my rotation, essentially. But yeah, when to see it in the movie was just, it's perfectly placed as well, because it was really the start of the journey when they sort of when they're looking to find the culprit. So I just thought it was fantastic, and it added so much. And it was kind of the tune that they used throughout the movie. Whenever they would introduce sort of really emotional parts of the squad being together, that's the sort of tune that was being played, the music that was being played of the four sort of guys there. So yeah, I mean, production-wise, fantastic. But I can't go any further without speaking about Mammootty. I have to speak about Mammootty because, this movie, Mammootty does so much in this movie, and I was so impressed by him because, like, with Mammootty, he's sort of done everything. And, this movie is not something that's too unfamiliar, I would say, to him. Like, I've seen him in cop kind of roles before. Like, I've not covered the CBI series, but I've seen at least one of those movies. And I really enjoyed that one as well. But he's playing a cop in that as well. And I'm sure he's played a cop in many other roles as well. So it's not too unfamiliar for him. But what he does so well in this movie that I thought was that he has so much weight on his shoulders this time around, because the people he's sort of acting with, I would say, are pretty inexperienced. I've not really seen them before, to be honest, especially the squad that he's working with. Like, he is a leader of the squad, but he's also a leader of the actors, because I don't know how much experience they all sort of have there, but, it's just stuff that he does that so well. Like, his delivery is fantastic. He's got that poise and gravitas that he always brings. But, I really enjoyed his leadership role in this. Like, as soon as you see him, he's a leader of this unit. There's no denying it. There's no doubt in your mind. One, because he obviously looks the most senior, but he's just his charisma and what he brings to screen just shows that. Like, he's the leader of the squad, and he's going to guide them in whatever way he can. So I absolutely love that from him. He also had a few action sequences in this one, which I thought were really good. I would say the action sequences were probably on par with probably like a Bhishma Parvam. I think like that's, he's done some action sequences in Roshakaramba, which were really good as well. And Bhishma Parvam also pretty similar in that as well. Now, you don't expect crazy action sequences from Mammootty. He's a 72-year-old man who's absolutely killing it. But yeah, I'm not expecting to see him flying around or, kicking people in the face and, jumping off buildings or anything like that. So, his combat style is really hand-to-hand. It's close combat stuff that he's done before, but that's fine. The action in this movie, while it's enjoyable, it's probably not the highlight of the movie. I don't walk away from this movie thinking that, it's an action movie, for instance. It's really a thriller, and really it's a police procedural at the end of the day. But yeah, Mammootty was great, and obviously, the other cast members, I think, in this movie actually did bring a lot. And while the squad itself, I'm going to be honest, there's some criticisms I have about the character development in this movie in terms of the other squad members. And even Mammootty's own storyline, there's not much there, to be honest. It really is focused more on plot than character, which is completely fine. But I think what really helps this movie in terms of its, I guess the other sort of performances is the performances from the other characters, especially the cop Kishore, who's a Kannada actor. And I've seen him in movies like Kantara. I think he was speaking Malayalam in the movie, so that itself was pretty impressive. But he was really impressive in this movie, I thought, along with, all the other sort of, I guess, the North Indian cast, if you want to call them that. Like, whoever was playing a North Indian in the movie, I guess, they all were really good as well. Like, I mean, there were moments of comedy with the North Indian inspector, and also there's, really, really, like, subtle performances from some of the other cops as well. It's particularly the North Indian cops that joins the squad. towards the second half. And this really nice touching moment actually when he sort of joins. So, you know, they do play on the emotions quite well with that. So I think that really helps. There's a short cameo from Sonny Wayne in the first half, you know, veteran, professional, just, you know, really good to see him, but he didn't have to do much but sit at a table and say a few lines. We saw Shyam Tom Chaco as well. I mean, I always smile whenever I see Tom Chaco, so it's always good, but his cameo was literally like maybe a minute. But they all help. It was good to see them. Look, I'll talk about the plot a little bit in this movie. Now, this is, as I said, a police procedural, and what I really like about this police procedural is how grounded it is, right? We've seen a lot of movies as of late which seem like they're over the top. Like, I'm not going to lie, it seems like things are so explosive in nature, and that's just continuing on with sort of the second half releases as well. You know, everything is over the top. It's not really, it's disconnected from reality a lot of the times. This movie, I think, does a really good job of keeping it really grounded. And we see that in the first half a lot. Like, you know, they have a whole sequence where they show how hard it is to find, to track down, you know, the killers just in the, in the CBI squad or the, not CBI squad, sorry, the telecommunications center, where they're trying to track down the numbers and how difficult it is. They've really, you know, let us know this is a long process and it's difficult. It takes hours and hours, and they did that so well. Credit has to go to the editing, because that's all done through editing. How do you present this in a way that's entertaining and engaging? But it still shows you at the same time how difficult it is and how tedious it is. Right. And again, they show us this through basically the travel that they do. And, you know, the traveling offers itself to give us a world tour, you know, a bit of a national tour of India, which is really good as well, because we get to see some really beautiful sceneries. You know, we get to see Mumbai city a little bit, but really my favorite parts were just the aerial shots of basically when they're just traveling in the landscape. It's amazing and beautiful. But, you know, in that you get to see how much commitment this squad has to track down this, you know, this killer. So I thought that was really well done. That's the part that I really appreciated about this movie. You know, the procedural element to this movie was probably one of my favorites, I think. I really enjoyed that part about it. You get to see the dynamics of the team as well. Now, I think that could have been done a little bit better, but there was some tension because of the corruption case as well. That was there. That is sort of some of my criticisms about this movie, to be honest. Like, I think there was probably some room for improvement in terms of how well you want to flesh out those characters. But look, overall, in terms of the storyline, I did really enjoy it at the end of the day. It was enjoyable. I thought it was paced really well. Like, you know, the first half, yes, does take a little bit of time to sort of build up what we're sort of looking for at the end. But as soon as the second half kicks in, my God, second half is awesome. Second half is like just, you're just basically waiting, and you're seeing, you know, the determination that Mammootty and the squad have to track down this killer. And they do that in a real graphic way. Like, you know, the villains themselves as well, we don't get to know so much about them, but it is told to us pretty well as to, you know, how sort of bad they are. And that scene when, that horrific scene when they go and rob the poor family, oh, it hits you pretty hard, man. It hits you pretty hard. So they do a great job of connecting with you. They're connecting emotionally. Really good. I really enjoyed it. I mean, it's hard to watch at times, but yeah, it served its purpose. The ending and everything like that, like, again, the second half was just completely enjoyable. The fight sequences, I think I think they were like, sometimes I'm in sort of two minds right now, because I thought that sometimes maybe they're not so required, because they really did drag on for a long time. And it was a little bit unrealistic to have these kind of fight sequences, especially the one in the town. I enjoyed it, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed the cinematography, I enjoyed the theatrics of it, but for a movie that's so grounded in reality, to have these five guys trapped in a corner without any firearms, just sort of fight off, you know, a whole village essentially, a little bit questionable about that in this kind of movie. Like, just for what they've been doing so far in this movie, it seemed a little bit out of place, but I enjoyed it as a spectacle, so I can't criticize it too much. Obviously the conclusion was really good. Like, I thought it was pretty good how, you know, at one time the teams diverted and they had to sort of, you know, solve the mystery in sort of different ways, I guess. That's the other part I really liked about this, actually. They showed how hard it was to solve this case, right? Like, not just in terms of hard, like, because these guys have to literally travel across all of India from the top from the bottom to the top, all the way. They went near the Nepal border, and they started from Kerala. That is a ridiculously long distance. Unbelievable. So I really did enjoy how they showed how difficult it was, because there's so many times when they were sort of close and, they were kind of, they were misled or something like that. The other thing they did really well in terms of, this storyline was they built tension really well, because one, when you start off something like you have 10 days to solve this, right? You know that the tension is going to start building, because they're not going to solve it in 7 days. They're going to solve it in 10 days. So, you only have this much time left. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it as well. And also the chemistry and relationship between Mammootty and this Kishore character, Manu Nidhi Cholan. Basically, I really enjoyed that, because there was a mutual kind of respect between the two of them, which I really appreciated. There's an understanding, but at the same time, you could tell the pressure was mounting on both of their shoulders, and how they both were like, we have to do something. But that doesn't, that didn't prevent Cholan from basically berating George Mammootty's character and letting him know, like, hey, we need to get this done faster. You guys are under the pressure. You can't. This is not good enough. The reality of the situation is that. I thought that was also really good. So, yeah, it ended up to be a pretty good conclusion. I feel at the end as well, how they sort of finally tracked down the villains for this ivory smuggling trade that they sort of sneaked in there in between as well. So, yeah, it was a great conclusion, and I really enjoyed the sort of, respect between... Honestly, that's the thing I really appreciate about this movie. Like, there's so much respect between the cops across the board, I think, and that's really nice to see, the collaboration and how everyone sort of worked together, from the squad to the North Indian unit to the Mumbai unit to the people near the border. It was fantastic, and it leaves you with, the overall message of this movie, it leaves you like, it hits you hard again, because you think like, man, such passionate people to, track down these killers. It's just sort of fantastic. Like, it leaves you with like, you look at the determination and you see the passion that these guys have, and you can't help but being inspired by that kind of thing, right? It's inspiring to see people who are so committed to their job that they're doing something for people like that. I can't, speak highly enough of that. It moves you, and it moved me during the movie as well, especially during the end when they sort of catch him. And there's a small little monologue that I think that Cholan, Cop Cholan basically talks about how some people work most of their jobs just, looking at the clock and waiting for it to wind down. But there's a certain set of people that will just, not even look at the clock. And that's true. That's represented here in this movie so well. So look, guys, I really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really good. I really think that, it is going to go down as one of the best movies of the year. But in saying that, I can't go any further without being honest with you guys and talk about some of the criticisms I have of this movie. Okay. Now, these are my personal criticisms. It's not necessarily everyone's. It's my personal view. If you don't agree with me, I'd love to have a conversation with you in the comment section, because I'm always open for, I'm very open-minded, and, if it's something that I'm wrong about, that's fine. But look, I think, as I said, this movie is definitely a police procedural, and plot is the center of the movie, and character development is kind of put to the side. Now, the thing that confused me a little bit was they sort of teased certain things in this movie, and I don't think they really paid off that well. The whole storyline between, one of the cops in the squad, essentially, see, that's the other thing. I don't even remember his name. But yeah, they're kind of forgettable. That's one of the parts that is a little bit of a criticism. But one of the cops has an issue with basically police corruption, and that's a very deep theme, and that's a very it's a pretty loaded thing to talk about. And this movie attempts to talk about a little bit. It uses more for a plot perspective rather than actually trying to tell a bigger and deeper message about like police corruption or anything like that. But it doesn't really pay off that well. Like we do, it circles back to us later on as to, why he did it, but it's done through exposition mostly. And the part that really, it doesn't have much of an impact because it's just told to us. Like nothing's shown to us in the whole storyline. It's told he's going through a hard time. Well, he's told he's going through a hard time because apparently he's trying to get married. His daughter married who is deaf. Okay, well, we never even see the daughter or that relationship at all. I think there's a snapshot of her somewhere, but we don't get to know that very much. So there's not much of a connection between that storyline. In a similar way, we know absolutely nothing about these cops. Like, they have no life. Even Mammootty's character, George, he's a senior cop. That's all we know about him. And that's all we know about the squad. So it's hard to connect with them emotionally. And I was thinking at one time, are they going to kill off one of these cops to sort of create more sort of drama or something like that? I'm happy they didn't, because the only feeling I would probably have then is probably just loss for the team rather than an individual loss. So, I do think that there was a little bit hard to connect with the sort of cops and the characters because we just don't know anything about them at all. The movie spends a lot of time, as I said, more around plot. And look, it's a 2 hour and 41-minute movie. So the plot is very complex and deep. But I don't know if they wanted to either cut this movie down and take some of those parts out and just be completely procedural. That would have been fine. Or basically take some of the parts out in the first half, which I think maybe not have been required so much, and actually introduce us to the characters. Give us a little bit of understanding of who these people are. Like, there's another story that they sort of have in between with one of the other cops who's having a daughter. But again, we can't really connect with that too much, but it just shows us a little bit about, the struggles of being a cop and, having, a baby being born or something like that, being a parent. Some of the mixed emotions that go on there. But again, there's not so much emotional payoff with that. So that's one of the criticisms. The other criticism I have is honestly around the villains in this movie. Nothing to do with the performances. The villain, the main bad guy, Ramzan. Essentially, I guess he kills the father in the family out of a pure rage or something like that because he didn't get enough money. In the first place, like, I thought it was kind of unnecessary considering how level-headed the whole operation seemed to be, to have an action like that at the end to just cause more drama on you, to cause more tension on you. Like, a death is much worse than, a robbery, for instance. And, if his main objective was just to escape with the money, and he's failed, he could have just left and just, been a bit more level-headed. But I guess, they showed him in that scenario to be not level-headed, but the other times he seemed to be pretty in control, along with the rest of the unit as well. So I thought that was an interesting case. And again, I couldn't connect much with their whole ivory trade, storyline, because again, it was just done through exposition. Like, it wasn't really, we don't really feel the connection with the bad guys at all in this movie, except they're just bad guys. It's very generic. So there's some criticisms about the movie. It didn't put me off too much, but if I'm really criticizing this movie and seeing where it could have been better, it definitely could have been better there. I think some of the character development to really feel the emotional punch would have paid off if the bad guys were even, I guess, worse in terms of like, or we understood a little bit more what the motivations were, in the end of the day, except for this ivory trade thing, which, okay, fine. Like, they told us that, but I didn't feel that connected to it. It was told, it was almost told like, in the second half and rushed in. So, but look, it doesn't take away from the fact that this was a good movie. I did enjoy it. It did have its flaws. It's not a perfect movie, but for me, as an entertainment piece, I quite enjoyed this movie a lot. But yeah, guys, that's my general thoughts about this movie. Again, the highlights, Mammootty's amazing performance, the score and the music being fantastic, and the production just being cinematography, production, everything, set design, fantastic. And the storyline was also very interesting. That's my highlights of the movie. And I would definitely recommend this movie to anybody that's interested, especially in police procedurals. I myself love police procedurals, and I've seen quite a few of them from the Malayalam film industry, so it's not a new genre for them to tackle, but this one was done really well. But hey, guys, these are my thoughts. I'd love to know what you guys thought about this movie. Did you guys enjoy this movie? Are you looking forward to seeing a sequel or something like that? I don't know much about the background of this. I think they said at the end it's based off a true squad that was there. I don't know if this case was real or not, or this case was fictional, or if it's loosely based on different cases that they might have had, the Kannur Squad might have had in the past. But that's also nice that this was sort of based on a true story as well, which just is amazing to me that you can travel so far to, reach the final destination and have it pay off. So, yeah, really enjoyed it. Would love to know what you guys thought in the comment section. Thanks so much for listening to me and my thoughts about this movie. And I look forward to talking to you once again on our channel. Thanks, guys.